Welcome to the Games Revealed podcast. Join our revolving group of guests as we explore the world of video games, hardware, and general nerdiness. From the Steam Deck to playing your favorite games in the haunted woods, we cover fun and entertaining topics that any gentle gamer can enjoy. Welcome to the Games Revealed podcast. I'm James, and also the Brink, bringing in another guest, or I guess the first guest technically.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, no, you're the first guest. So the two other people
Right.
on the podcast, it's because I'm redoing this. Like, I haven't really done guests before, and so yeah, you're going to be the first one.
So to save James from pronouncing my name wrong, I am Scawp. I run the channel Chinballs Gaming, and I tend to make some. What do I make? I forgot.
Make videos, cool scripts.
Videos, some scripts. Yeah, I write some scripts, and yeah, I've got mostly tech, games, and a bit of VR every now and again when I can be bothered to put my VR headset on.
Like retro stuff a lot, retro games.
Yeah, I love my retro stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking today, and this is a topic, so don't blame me if this topic's bad or good. This is a topic chosen by Scawp.
I'm going to challenge it to you, okay? I'm just going to come out and say it. The topic is, should game services be allowed to die? So I'm getting fed up, right? I am so fed up. I'm going to list some games now for you. I'm taking over.
Go for it.
But, so, in recent times, these game services have closed, making the games unplayable. Crossfire X, Knockout City, Rumbleverse, Multiverse, Echo VR, Crisis 3 Online, Dead Space 2 Online, lots of FIFA, Battlefield, Bad Company 2, some other bad companies, Assassin's Creed 2, 3, Brotherhood, Far Cry 3, all of these game services or servers are no longer online. What can we do about this? Is that acceptable? Should companies be allowed to take these services offline that we have paid our hard-earned cash for, giving it to them? What should we do about this?
I think boycotts don't work very well. And I will say from personal experience that I've wanted to boycott and I never do. So yeah, that's not necessarily true. Like, okay, I bought what is it, Battlefield 2042 or something like that. I bought that. I pre-ordered that. The worst thing possible. I pre-ordered it, heard how bad it was, did not play it, and then my window to refund it was gone by the time I was like, oh, I think maybe I'll just refund this. Yeah. And so that was on me. That's how bad I am at this. Like, if I had the button on the politicians and stuff like that, I would go to that level and be like, okay, no, if you're going to turn off the game service, you have to open source the whole service. So if someone else wants to do a server or some type of open source piece to maybe fund it or to host it, that they can. I think that is a mandatory, and I think that is something that has to. I don't care if you have proprietary system. If you're thinking that you can sell someone a $60 game, let's say in this case, and it's not some of these games are not even playable unless the service is properly there, then you need to be able to do right by it and open source it. That's my really pretty hard stance on it.
Yeah, but what if you can't open source it? You, as an Unreal developer, the asset store, maybe you've bought some asset. And also with people think of assets as just trees and houses and scripts to animate. But what if that asset is some server code, a middleware, as we used to call them? We can't be giving that away.
That's my hard part, though, is fine hard if not the case on a legal level. But I do know that there's some open source projects that try to reverse engineer and try to create their own services kind of thing.
Speaking of this, a very good one, if people didn't know, is when the Demon Souls server on the original PS3 turned off, someone or a group of someone's reverse engineered all the network calls, and if you change your DNS to a certain IP address, it will simulate the original Demon Souls server, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. They're doing a benefit for us, and people might think, why is this important? But there's all these games behind me which have been backed up for future generations. You might think that's silly, but what about in 100 years or hopefully even 1,000 years? It's like, what were games like back then? What about this missing history that we've got. We've got all these games from the 80s and 90s, which are nicely preserved. But at the moment, from the games in, what year we forgot, 2020s, the 20s, oh, I'm an old man now, is a lot of these games are going to be lost because the servers have gone or the services have gone. It's not acceptable. You wouldn't accept that from a book.
Yeah, no.
If you got sold a book right now and then in 6 months' time I took it off you and burnt it, you wouldn't be very happy about that.
No, because you're going to want to be able to consume it later down the road. I mean, I don't reread a book right away, but after 10 years, I'd love to read it again.
But imagine going to your library, into your bookcase, and see that 10 of your books were missing, or they were just all blank pages.
I think a good example in some ways is that the
ink.
ink becomes, it disappears after 5 years, and you have to rebuy the book. That is in some ways, obviously they're incentivized to make it so that it almost doesn't work with games. And honestly, I bet you behind the scenes, some of them are acting like that. Now, I will take a little bit of a controversial take on this too, is that why would I at the end of the day, I think I agree with you, but I don't go back and play those types of games usually. Like I usually whatever, if it happens, it happens. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to go on and buy the next game and just not live in the past.
Well, that's the thing is, I am probably not going to go back and play those games. For me, it's just for preservation, for historical reasons. It's to see a slice of time that we might not have seen. It's like maybe the BBC, right?
Yeah,
it's a big channel in the UK and obviously around the world now. But in the early days of TV, when they filmed something for television and then broadcast it, they instantly recorded over it and never backed it up. So there's all these TV shows from the early 60s and 70s. Like people probably know Doctor Who. Like the original few series of Doctor Who just don't exist anymore. And because video recorders didn't exist then, all those TV shows are lost to time. And they didn't think that was important then. We might not think saving multiverse. I'll pick the crappiest example. We might not think saving multiverse is important now, but maybe in 50 years' time, someone might be interested.
No, there's games though, there's some games we have hacks for and all that, so I think we can preserve some. But you're right, there's going to be some. Let's say World of Warcraft is, I think, an okay example. When it dies, it will eventually. I'm going to be so wrong about this, but there's no way it's going to live another 20 years. I don't think.
I think maybe picked a bad example there because the community of World of Warcraft have been doing a real good job of they preserve every version number, and this is one of the few communities that actually does this. Sorry to tell you you're wrong, but
I don't know.
I don't play World of Warcraft, but I'm pretty sure that they save every single.
But what about
the game?
The server though?
They've been recreated, a lot of them. I'm not sure if all of them have, but a lot of modern games which you just can't get the code to, you can't reverse engineer the code to, just gone.
You're gonna, and unless there's a lot of work, so there's gonna maybe we need to have our museums open up a new conservation program to reverse engineer some game services and stuff like that to preserve some of these. Because with World of Warcraft, I do think there's people that have reversed engineered in such a way, because honestly, if you know what the schema is, the data schema and all that, it's not too hard to kind of get what's going on. It might not be a perfect recreation, but with World of Warcraft, you could recreate those servers in some form or fashion. I don't know if people have done it. I'm sure they have. World of Warcraft's so big, maybe, and so it probably is a bad example, but that's an example. I played that way back in the day. I have not played it much, but
there are other examples, like most of the console stuff, which hasn't managed to get leaked off the console. I mean, obviously a lot has now, but and especially live service games, which are continuously evolving. I'm sure that every single version of, say, Rainbow Six or Rocket League doesn't exist. It's probably only the modern version and maybe the original version that came on the disc that exists. Everything in between is gone. So should we care about if it's gone or not? I mean, I can't make that decision for people in 50, 100 years. But I think it's something that we should definitely be aware of. And your original point when we started this of making servers open source, I think we need basically a commitment from publishers to do this, or to say that once this game's finished, we will open source it. Yeah, like you said.
I think,
but
a way to solve some of this too is go more open source with certain platforms and certain services that are very easily recreatable in the sense of like a lot of stuff they create, they will claim proprietary, but it's not that hard to technically, like they're all very similar. A lot of the services we have are very similar. Maybe a commitment to do like more of an open source framework for them or something like that.
Yeah, I think some sort of framework would be nice, like a common, I don't know, let's just make it up, a common multiplayer server framework that everybody uses, so they're all so similar that you could easily guess what the service code is.
Mm-hmm.
And should publishers be concerned about people running private servers anyway? It's like there used to be the days of like Half-Life and Counter-Strike where, well, Steam are still doing this actually, aren't they? Is that they release the server code. You can download the server code. You can run your own instances. But a lot of people don't like doing that. And I don't know why, because it's such a good thing for the community. It's just so helpful for us now for when the servers get turned off, and it's useful for the future when we need to preserve these things.
Yeah, no, I've played so many local area network games and stuff like that, LAN games and stuff. I love doing LAN parties, and so, or just you have your own server that you play off of. I agree with that. I think a nice balance to where you could allow for that. I think for some games, maybe it's just a control thing. They know that they can make more money if they know. I honestly, it costs them more money.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the cosmetics. Is if you've got your own server,
There you
we
go.
can't sell you the cosmetics that were
Because you could easily just probably hack
turn
those
them
in,
all
yeah.
on. Yeah.
Pretty easily. So that might be it. Once maybe the cosmetic grab, because I think it's doing okay, but I think some games just don't do as well. I think it will run its gamut. I think people are going to get exhausted of all the different assets or skins that are coming out. I mean, yeah, but we'll see.
I think you brought a good point up in your last podcast. It would have been much more value if you could take them to other games. And I'm sure there was plans on some services for that, but it just never happened.
NFTs.
Yeah.
People will laugh at that, and some people don't understand what an NFT quite really is because it was just made fun of almost last year with the silly amount of money delved into it, or like that was plunged into it. I'd love to see portable assets, and with the Unreal Engine and more companies, and this is the beautiful thing, and I don't think people realize this, that if we can get most of the games on a couple of different game engines, let's say like Unity, Unreal, and I can't remember. There's a couple more, but there's one other.
Godot.
What's that?
Godot?
Not Godot. Godot or Godot. That one's an up and coming one, but I haven't seen any serious games really made out of it yet. But there's another one. It's Ubisoft, I believe. One. Oh, there's also. Yeah, we don't need to go into all the different game engines, but if we can get in kind of behind a couple of those, their server code is very similar now. Like Unreal is trying to standardize the way that you do multiplayer with their stuff, with their streaming and all like of their assets and all that. Probably will make it easier to replicate a server and do your own thing in the future. If the companies get mad enough, they can still try to sue you, I guess. And that's my problem is from the company side and the legality side is are companies going to allow this? Because Nintendo is notorious for suing.
Yes, they hate it, and I think the worst thing with Nintendo is that they don't provide us a legitimate way to play our own games, or a lot of times even buy it. I don't like buying the games I already own again, which is going to the Steam Deck. That's one of the reasons I love the Steam Deck is when I got my, sorry to go off, I'm going off a bit of tangent
No,
here.
go for it.
When I had my Nintendo, there were so many games I wanted to play on the Switch, but I already owned them on PC, and I'm like, I'm not buying these games again. I refuse, because it used to be the case that I used to buy games on PS3, Xbox 360, and on my PC to play with different subsets of people. I'd be buying the same game 3 times at launch, and then I got to the point of saying, no, if I buy a game once, that's it, I'm not buying it anymore. And the Steam Deck basically paid for itself. I counted up all the games I wanted to play on my Switch that I already owned on my PC, and that came to more than the cost of the deck on its own, just to have to rebuy the games again to play them on Nintendo Mobile. That's just crazy, right?
And this is another thing. I have games on my Switch that later came out on Steam, or I didn't have on Steam yet because I had them on Switch, but I had the Steam Deck. I'm like, and I bought them. I have multiple games I've bought, and even owned on Steam, but I want to play on the go with the Switch. for the fun of it that I bought. I'm a horrible consumer when it comes to like duplicate buying, and I agree.
Yeah.
To the case in point with your like with the, you're kind of saying like with Nintendo though, they take it a step further. I have a huge beef with Nintendo. I love Mario. I love a lot of stuff they do, but there are services that you have to buy, like to play the emulated games, like Mario's and all that. Like you have to pay a monthly fee or a
Yeah.
yearly fee. I think actually in this case, I think two of them technically to play those games that are like what, not even quite. They might be a megabyte, maybe less. I can't remember how big the ROMs are, but like they're not very big. They're milking
Yeah.
it really hard.
Yeah, and these games that you're buying on Switch through your service eventually going to get turned off. Which brings us back to our point:
Yeah.
is they're going to be gone again at some point, and you're not going to be able to play those again. But thankfully, the retro community and just retro games in general, because the copy protection just wasn't there, are all preserved on the
Yep.
internet, which is perfect. And it's getting harder and harder. And the reason it's getting harder and harder is Nintendo is one of those big players who are saying that no, you can't back up your games, you can't preserve your games, you're not allowed the server code. As soon as that game is dead, as soon as the service is dead, you've got no choice. You can't do anything with those old games. I'm not sure what the state with the Wii U at the moment. I know the stores have closed down, so you can't buy any Wii U exclusive games anymore. So they're effectively lost unless you acquire them on the 7 Seas.
On the seven, yeah.
And then they'll sue you.
Yep.
But then whose fault is that? And I forgot who said this phrase. It's like piracy is not a problem of people not wanting to buy the games. It's a problem of the service not being available.
Mhm.
I've paraphrased that really badly, but I forgot who said that.
No,
And
it's
it's true. It's like people will buy the games if you let them buy them. But if you don't let them buy them, of course they're going to pirate them. It's because they've got no other way to play your games. And especially with things like that came out on N64 or GameCube, especially. I mean, you've seen the background. I've actually got 4 GameCubes, but eventually
that's
those disk drives are going to die. Those discs are going to succumb to disk rot. And having an Amiga with lots of magnetic discs, which have now failed, the only option I've got is to emulate those discs on the original hardware, which is still technically illegal, even though I have the discs, but they're just ruined. And even like Game Boy game, the batteries in every Game Boy game is due to die in the next few years, I think it is, because they only had battery power for
yep.
20 to 25 years. They're all going to go. And most people who don't really know about retro games, I don't think that it's worth saving them. We're just going to throw them in the bin, and they're going to go.
Yeah.
And eventually, you probably all got a friend who said, "Oh, I found a Super Nintendo in my loft, but I didn't have the right cables to plug into my new TV, so I threw it in the bin." Like, what are you doing? You're gonna give that to me?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Conservation, I think, needs to become a serious thing because games are an art. Obviously, like they're a multi-layered piece of art, right? They include not only visuals, audio, stories, and all that. I do think that we're going to see a new wave, and it'll be interesting to see who comes. Like, I'm sure there's already lots of groups out there that are trying to conserve everything, but it would be kind of cool to see it on a more national level. I don't know, like some of these museums or something like that, maybe start treating it a little bit more like that.
So I know there's a museum here in Germany that does that, who preserves games from the original medias, but again, they're operating under that grey area of the law, hoping that they don't get sued from it, which I'm thinking they're doing okay with. But at what point do
Interesting.
Nintendo say yes or no? And I don't think it should come down. It really shouldn't come down to a government forcing this on. I think it just needs to be like anything that's really happened in the games industry. It needs to be homegrown. Like the age rating stuff, which it was sort of forced on by the government, but it was the computer games companies got together and said, "Okay, we've got a problem here. We need to start putting ages on the games," and they came together and
yeah. Well,
the ERSB is it in America?
Yeah.
And they sorted that out, sort of.
The government's like, we're going to start regulating this if you don't do at least something.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but I think the games companies need to do the same thing before governments start telling them. It's like we should make some commitments on providing servers and versions to people once this game has shut down, or even while it's still alive. But like we've said, with the cosmetics situation and perhaps the middleware and whatever else, things that we might not even think about.
I think
Who knows?
personally, I think that the government does need to get. So the way I think about government is there's good and bad regulations. I think if you're trying to like let's say with games, people should be able to be allowed to sell pretty much almost anything as long as it's not illegal, content. And there's certain pieces that could lie within that, but we could have easily not had Grand Theft Auto. There's a lot of games we could have easily not had if regulation would have gone through. I don't like that kind. What I want is I want a little bit more regulation on companies. Companies aren't out for our interests; they are out to make money. So regulations to not hurt the individual is what I prefer. And I think in this case, to say, hey, once you get past a certain time, or even not, like you have to understand at one point this needs to be conserved and needs to be able to be brought back up in, like, let's say a museum where people want to be able to play. You got to be able to either open source slash open up that the software if it's closed, so people don't have to reverse and engineer it, or they will need or allow organizations to preserve it. I do think that at least some type of legislation needs to happen on that level. But
So like we know, like with books eventually go out of copyright, and like right now Winnie the Pooh is no longer a trademark of Disney. It's now public domain. I've not looked into this with games, but why can't the games do the same? Like, do they do the same?
do the same.
The server code certainly doesn't. So why shouldn't the server code be included in that? Why can't that be released after 50 years, even if it is 50 years?
Oh, that's a really hard one because you're not going to trademark. So with the Winnie the Pooh stuff, the trademark on Pooh, and same thing's coming up with. We'll see how the mouse does, but
that he will never be on trademark. They will make the government.
There's the
change
reason.
their mind,
The reason why we have all our trademark, almost every type of laws, because like Disney or one or two other companies, and so trademarks are a little bit different. So you can't recreate whole new works of art from that trademark, right? But when it comes to copyright has only a certain amount of time, and there's already games out of that you could technically circulate. Like you might be thinking that you're downloading illegal. I think they're legal to download now because they've run the gamut on their copyright. I could be wrong on that, like Atari kind of stuff.
Right.
But
like this, I know there's a term, the abandonware, which is like there's no one there to fight the copyright anyway, so no one's going to care. But yeah, that's interesting to know.
But I think if they reproduce it, or maybe if they bring it back into circulation, it can change some of that. So as long as it's getting reused, like their IP is getting reused, it also, like with IP, let's say, if they are not using it enough, that's why you'll see some games come out and you're like, I think honestly, there's two reasons. Like Prey had two different types of games come out underneath it, is to keep on reusing the IP, and people could comment or message in at one point and let me know if I'm wrong on all this, but there's a lot of stuff that they have to keep on doing, or they have to fight to keep their copyright, trademarks, and all that. So I don't know. It's a gray area. It's like a gray area. I'd like to see some groups, even on like a global level or governmental level, to just say, hey, you know what? These are art, and they deserve the right, at least bare minimum, at one point, to be preserved without any fighting or anything like that.
With no DRM.
Yeah, a DRM is
no de novo.
De novo. Yeah, that's the hard one. People will not play a game because of de novo, and I'm like, I'm just at that point where I'm like, if it's going to be StarCraft 3, I'm sorry, they could put 5 layers of de novo or whatever they want to do. I'm going to play that thing because I don't know, I don't have time to fight these.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I don't care. At the end of the day, I want to play the damn game.
Yep, that's me. I'm also a developer, so from the side of game developers creating all this stuff, and you also have to remember, when you do boycotts, this developers don't get a say in a lot of stuff. It's on the business level. They're there to be creative, or to just also make money so that they can survive. And I will have to say, like, some boycotts I think are worthwhile. Others just hurt the developer. If you like the game, shout out to the developer, or work on the governmental level, maybe even. I know a lot of people, like some people don't like the government getting too involved, but I think there's other ways to not hurt the developer, in my opinion. And that's who I look at with some of these boycotts and games. Like, if you like the game, pay full price. If you can't afford it, I understand you have to go another. Even me producing stuff, I'm like, if you can't afford it at that time, I get it.
But I want to save this actually because this is probably a too big a subject for the rest of the time we've got. But game services and just continual sales, I will say now I don't like it, and maybe we can go into that another time.
Oh yeah, we could save it for another time. We always go into it. We still have like some time. So what do you mean by that? Like, can you just expand? I'm just curious a little bit more on that one.
I just think we've got to a point that the games are just being devalued. It's like games have no value anymore. It's like either get it for free on Game Pass or wait till it goes to Epic or wait for one of those crazy flash Steam sales on 90% off. And I hate it. I really hate it. And I think it encourages publishers to overprice their games initially so they can have a bigger, heavier discount. And yeah, just the continual sales. There's some developers who've done really. Is it Fractario, the game, which has continuously gone up in price since launch because they've added more and more stuff, and I hell of respect that.
Yeah, no,
respect the hell out of it. And there's other developers, 100%. And it's always the indie developers who refuse to. They'll have a sale when it launch, and then it'll go up, and then it'll stay that price basically forever. And if I ever make a game, I've said I'll make a game at some point, but I've always said that if I do make a game, I will say a roadmap of when it's allowed on sale. It will go on sale. I will announce it as soon as I release the game. It will go on sale in a year's time for its anniversary, and then again in 5 years' time, whatever. And other than that, no. So if you want to wait for a sale, wait till the next year.
Yeah.
And just be upfront about it, because the amount of times I've bought a game and then a week later it's gone on sale or it's gone on to Epic Store, and that just leaves a bit of taste in my mouth. It's like, yeah, I know I want to support the devs, but I'm paying when everyone else is not.
Yeah, I agree. Like going on to the Epic Game Store, they're trying to build up their presence, but if it's free on there, at least the game developers do get something. So at least it's helping. But yeah, you're at the end.
It's encouraging me not to spend any money.
Yep.
It's like if it's eventually going to come to Epic, then why should I buy it at full price? I can just wait 6 months.
Yeah,
and get it for free.
Not everything does,
like,
but yeah,
Call of Duty especially is. I do like playing a Call of Duty every now and again. I've not bought the last few. I buy other ones with zombies in because I'm a big, massive Black Ops Zombies fan. I have been from the 360 days. But guaranteed is a Call of Duty will launch, and exactly 1 month later, for the last 5 or 6 Call of Duty games, exactly 1 month later on every platform, it's been a 20 or 33% off in exactly 1 month. Why would anyone buy it at launch for full price when they can get it 20 or 30% cheaper just 1 month later? That is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You're just devaluing your own brand. You're making yourself look cheap. The only people that do this well is Nintendo. Nintendo have sales rarely, and obviously the games in the shop do, but in general, Nintendo games stay pretty down level. They don't have a lot of sales because they know their games are worth something.
So with games that I haven't released one officially yet. I am working on one. I'm hoping to get a tech demo done within the next 6 months to a year. That's what I'm trying to like. I'm struggling with like, and that's why I'm starting to do a little bit more podcasting and a little less of like structured content. Maybe do more opinion pieces, because it's a little easier to do my side stuff. With the way marketing works, with the way brains work, you don't want to discount it too much, obviously, because then you have that mentality of, oh, well, I'm just getting it when it's like $5 again instead of it being $30. But if you can discount it every once in a while, like, and Steam will tell you, hey, we're having a sale coming in. Do you want to include yourself in it? Unless you're like partnered with Steam, then sometimes you have to. But yeah, 20% is what I'll probably do every once in a while. And I'm fine with that because the mentality is that I'm getting a good deal on this game. The problem lies within some like CD key sites and some other stuff. They get a bunch of CD keys and they will discount those ones so low that then it kind of hurts the like, well, I've seen it all the time, even in my community, where it's like, well, I bought that game for like $3. Why are you spending $20? And then people feel a little jaded about not getting the game for the best deal. But it hurts the developers.
Yeah, well, I won't buy games from those kind of sites. I never have. And there's been a few developers who've called them out. I think, who was it? Tiny Build called out, I'm not going to say their names in case they try and sue us, but called out one of the big ones and said, you have sold 50,000 of our games keys. We've got a list here of all the keys that you've sold. And all of them come from stolen credit cards. And we've got nothing. and they had a big, massive argument, but a very public argument, which I respect from the publishers to actually just, call them out online on Twitter and say, you have sold all our keys, and just said to people that bought these keys, we're not going to take them off you, but just be aware that we've not made any money out of them.
That's
So, yeah.
I don't know if I think I've heard some of that, but I have not heard like that's pretty bad. And if developers aren't going to make money, just know those gamers, like whoever's listening, if they don't get enough money, you're not getting a second one, or they won't be able to continually make the game that you like. Because like games that are continually developed, like 7 Days to Die, which is one of my favorites for that type of style of game, is continually being developed on. If they don't make enough sells, or I mean, they've already made plenty of money and they want to continue working on it out of passion. But if they don't make enough, they can't make another one. Like they can't feed themselves. So
I think I mentioned that I've not bought any games now for 2 years. But before that, I was buying a lot of games, and my friends were saying, well, you've not played the game that you bought, and you've been talking about a lot. Yeah, because I really like the developers. I've been following their dev blogs, and I want to support them, and I know I will play it eventually. Maybe it will be in 10 years' time. This is why game preservation is important to me. Yeah, game preservation has been important to me, because most of the times I will buy a game and then not play it for 10 years. So I'd like to know it's there when I do get around to it. But yeah, when I was buying games, it was mainly because I liked the concept of the game. I liked the look of it. I liked the development studio itself and what they were releasing, just the passion for it. And that's where I would mostly spend my money, just to keep, in a way, just keep keep them going,
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I buy some of my games. Sometimes I'll get them, like I have certain sites I like to get them off because you get a little bit of a discount. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm not like 100% sold on the game and I don't want to take too much of a bet, because I'm not really good at returning stuff, like with Battlefield, right? Like if I'll buy it and I'll forget about it. Depending on the game, like Starfield, I'll be playing a lot of day one. Baldur's Gate is one that I didn't think I was going to get, and then I got like a week later. I just barely started playing it like a day or two ago. I love that game.
Yeah.
It's games that I know that deserve to, like, either my money in some ways, or I want to play, but sometimes I just find myself with less time. That's why one of the reasons why I stream, honestly, so that I have more time to play games in a controlled environment, knowing that I will play it and I can get to play it at these certain times. But yeah, no, I also respect people that don't want to spend money if you're not going to play it. Yeah, no, it's kind of a, yeah, we did tangent quite a bit off the original topic, but I think it's really relative.
Yes, true.
It's relative. Like, why keep on adding to your backlog? Why spending more money if you're not going to play the games? It's a hard conundrum, I think, to overcome. But I do think people that steal it, I get it. I'm a little more lenient when it comes to piracy thing. Like, I don't think you should steal, and that's my hard stance. But if you can't afford anything, or if you're in a different type of situation, country or whatnot, like, I get it. And oftentimes with those types of people, they're going to get into at least some money later down the road. Make sure to like support the developer later on if you can.
And the thing is, a lot of people do that, and you see this with people who probably aren't gamers. Think pirates are evil people that don't want to give anybody money, but you'll see it over Reddit all the time. Quite honestly, is that people will say, it's like, I pirated this game 5 years ago when I didn't have any money, and now I've just bought it and the developer's new game that I probably won't play, just to support them. And it's really cool. It happens more often than you think if you look around. It really does. And then there's the opposite situation of, I don't know if you saw the story back when, what's the game called? Miami, the top-down shooter, Miami something.
Yeah, I don't remember it's Miami. Yeah, but it starts with that, Miami. Or
when it was being released, it was banned in Australia because it was too violent.
Yep.
And somebody on Twitter or some media asked the developers how they could get a copy, and Devolver Digital, or the developer themselves, just said, pirate it. Just,
yeah,
I don't know, that's a perfect answer.
I think there's a time and a place, and as a developer, I think that I think some developers are going to be a little bit more staunch.
Hotline Miami, I've just remembered now. Sorry,
Hotline Miami. Yeah. That's are going to be okay with it. Some aren't, but at the end of the day, I think even if they're malicious, and because there are a couple of people that I've known over the years that, like, I want to save money, and that's all they care about. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's all you care about, like, you might be out of a job some days soon too, because if you're not paying for someone else's services, things collapse a little bit. But I don't think there's enough of those to warrant. Like, game companies are going to try to say all that to make it sound like it's worse.
Yeah, well, they did the same thing of, we had 100,000 people BitTorrent our game. That means we lost 100,000 sales. It's like, well, probably 9,900 of those wasn't going to buy your game in the first place.
Yep. No.
So
yeah, even the people that are wanting to save money and don't do it out of any other reasons, they just might not buy it. And half those people probably didn't even play the game much. They want to try it because you didn't do a demo disc or like a demo.
Yeah, demos aren't things anymore.
Luckily, the way Steam's done some stuff is they've helped with that, like trials. And I think Dead Space is a new one where I do think that companies are going to see that, hey, if you just make it a little easier to get the game, to keep the game, because that's another problem with Steam. Steam, as much as I love it, what happens if it goes down and it's gone forever? To get back into the preservation kind of side of things. Yeah.
Steam is still so funny to me because everyone loves and defends Steam with a passion, and everyone hates DRM, but Steam is DRM. It's like, you're old enough to remember when Half-Life 2 came out and it shipped with Steam, and we all hated it with a passion because it was so terrible.
I loved it.
It was online, not the game, but Steam. It was online only. You couldn't. Really?
Yeah, I'm an exception.
For me, it just didn't
I'm
work.
An exception.
I still had 56k modem at that time, so just trying to play Half-Life 2 was terrible because Steam just would not connect and there was no offline mode then. I mean, it's very difficult to get the Steam Deck into offline mode even now. And
yeah, so even with the Steam Deck, I don't have that many issues with offline Steam Deck, except for games that don't support offline. That's the only problem. That's my problem sometimes. But once again, I have such a big backlog. To go into the offline thing just real quick, I don't have an issue with that because I have such a big backlog. I always make sure I have a couple games that just don't matter that they're offline. But I deviate a little bit.
It happened to me once. I was going on a flight somewhere, very long flight, loaded up my laptop with all my games. I was like, yes, I'm ready to go for this flight. Got on the flight, obviously radio's turned off, open my laptop, launch Steam.
Oh, no.
It's like, oh man, why didn't I test this first to see if it would work without an online connection? And just because I forgot to turn it into offline mode, because like, who remembers to go into Steam and physically go through 2 layers of menus to turn it into offline mode? Why?
The Steam Deck's a little better with that. I never turn it off into offline mode. What I do is I go into like no service, or I'll take it, I don't have Wi-Fi, and then I just turn it back on and it just works.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah, it will kind of go automatically into offline mode, or it just doesn't matter as much. I've not had issues laptop wise. Yeah, I've had those issues though, so I get that. But with Steam, Steam, what I liked about it is it distributed updates back. It was like the early days, and like probably one of the first, or if not the first, one of them ways to update the game. So if there's bugs, they can update those, maybe add some new content. I don't think Valve did much of that, but with Counter-Strike, they kind of did. And that's where I kind of liked it. Like with Counter-Strike, with online games, with what Steam kind of became, I did like it, but yeah, it was still annoying though. I agree.
I miss Counter-Strike. Going off on a tangent again, I miss Counter-Strike. I've not played Counter-Strike since the early days of Source and the last days of 1.5 and 1.6. I've not tried to get back into it since then, but I remember those times so nicely. Just
I had a little clan. That's where Bunny Strike actually comes from. The game, the company that Games Revealed, everything is underneath. Is BS is what we, the handle would be.
If you look at my name Scawp and take away the S and the C, this is where my name came from. Is from using the AWP.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, Counter-Strike's a big deal. I put thousands of hours into Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source. I don't know which one I put more into.
I miss the shield, me. I really miss the shield of 1.6 and running through the oil rig and through the was it the prison cell? There was a prison cell as well, wasn't there?
Yeah,
I think Escape.
I like Source was probably my the top of Counter-Strike game for me. I loved it. I don't mind Global Offensive or Go. I'm excited for Counter-Strike 2 more. It's just it became a little bit too much of a, and I get why they did it, but it's the continual what are they called? Service as a game kind of thing, and it kind of hurts it.
Yeah, I don't think I could really play it anymore. So I am a PC gamer, but I now exclusively only use a controller because I've got sort of like bad RSI in my left hand, my mouse hand. I'm left-handed, and I just can't use a mouse anymore. I've got a very crap vertical mouse for work, which is fine for office stuff, but it's crap for gaming. So I just chill out with an Xbox Elite controller these days. Everything, so it's not so good for CS.
It's not.
It's good for other games. I think controllers get a hard time when they shouldn't. They're not as bad as what PC gamers make out to be. Sure, if you're playing a Twitch game like Counter-Strike, then yeah, but a lot of games don't.
A lot of games were great with the controller. I'm a mouse and keyboard as much as possible, and another reason I like to play at my desktop. But certain games, once again, like Persona, works great on the deck. It's controller based. I love it. I just always lose my controller somewhere. It's always somewhere in my office, and so
I think actually the main game that I've noticed that I really miss keyboard and mouse for is I still play a lot of World War Z.
Okay.
And getting a headshot with a controller is nigh on impossible. Whereas when I was playing with keyboard and mouse, just every single shot was a headshot, headshot. And now on the controller, I can't do it anymore. So I've got to play on the lower difficulty.
I could go a lot further into all that, but yeah, we did really go off topic. That's honestly, that's what the name of this podcast should be, is like off topic.
Off topic.
But that's just me. It's the way my brain works.
Well, we'll ask the audience, do you mind if we go off topic? Should we go off topic? Well, not me, but should James go off topic every week? Are you okay with that?
I
like and subscribe.
Guarantee what they're going to say, and I'm okay with this being in and everything like that. I'm okay with you, audience, listening to this secret conversation. They're going to be 50-50. This is how every time I do a poll, every time I do anything, it's always going to be close enough to where I'm like, this is not I can't make a decision off this unless it's a decision that I want to make. Some are going to be like, okay, I want you to stick on the topics more tightly, and then you can banter off later, or it's okay every once in a while. It's going to take some time, but I think we'll get a little better. To rein it back in, though, and to we can start getting done with this soon. How do you solve the Steam one? Because it is DRM. It's easy to defeat DRM, but is it legal? And yeah, how do you go about that?
I'm not sure if it's illegal, but it's definitely against the terms of service.
You can get your account banned. With the terms and service, how that works, yeah, it would bare minimum get your account banned. Legality wise,
account's banned, then all your games are gone.
What's that?
Once your account's banned, not just that game's gone, your entire library's gone.
That is another whole topic that would require some more time. But I really do think that should be illegal too, to a point. Meaning Valve and some of these other companies, if you don't delete accounts, and I don't know, maybe they don't do it fully, but just deactivate them from being able to play online. Don't delete their account to get. If they spent thousands of dollars on their games, and let's say they cheat in the game, yeah, they're an idiot, but just don't allow them to do online services anymore.
Yeah. I know recently Ubisoft have been sending out emails that say if you don't use your account within the next 12 months, then in 18 months it will be deleted.
Yeah.
Which there's the amount of times that like I've said, I buy a game and then don't play it for 10 years. It's the same as logging onto a service. I might not log on to EA Access or whatever they call it now, Origins or whatever, for 10 years, but I still expect my games to be there. Still expect to download them and play them.
So it's I went on a whole rant on this one, I think, on stream a while ago. And this is another reason I like the stream, is because I have chatters teach me things. I learned that it's only if you have never bought a game and haven't logged in for a very long time that they will.
That's probably me. That's going to be me in 10 years.
But have you bought a game? Meaning, if there's no games on that account.
Ever. Oh, there's games on that account.
Yeah, if there's no games on the account, and you haven't logged in a very long time, they'll do cleanup. And from a software engineer standpoint,
is that the only condition?
I get that a little bit more, as it gets annoying to have it build up and up and up. And you're like, they haven't touched this in 10 years. Why have this around? It's just going to increase time and querying and all that. Let's just delete it.
Okay, that's fine. Their messaging was really bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. And I could be wrong. Once again, chat could remind me once again that I'm wrong. But
please do correct us. We're fine with that. I'm
totally
happily be corrected.
Just not too much hate on that at us kind of stuff. Because I was really upset. Because I'm like, well, if I buy a game, I don't play it for 4 years, and it's deleted, that kind of defeats the point of me using that service altogether. And that will potentially get me to not even buy a game that I would want. That's when you start getting into that realm of not going to say pirate kind of situation, but it's a I'm not going to buy it from you situation.
But people say this won't happen, and these companies are too big. But do you remember Ultraviolet, the extension to like Blu-rays where you could download games? That's gone.
That's
Everyone always
allowed for you to port it over, which is nice
for a time, but I forgot,
Yep.
and now all my online videos are lost.
Yep.
To the ether.
Yep.
Gone.
I get it. At least they allowed that, because if they didn't, I'm sure they would have had some legal issues. They're trying to skirt these legal issues with all this, because they are like,
again,
we're on the cusp of, unfortunately, like especially here in America, our league, our politicians are super old. Like on average, are like in their 70s. It's ridiculous, and they don't know much about, like, let's say these companies are letting too much go and too much complaining. The politicians will listen up eventually. But yeah.
But getting back to the preservation thing, so like most of the games that I've got, I do back up myself. But what if I don't have the means to back it up? What if it's not possible, or it's too complicated? Why can't I just pick out a game from my library, show it, and download it from the internet archives or whatever? As long as I've got the physical game and box, why does it matter whether I've dumped it myself or just downloaded it off the internet? It's the same damn thing. Whereas one's grey area depending on where you live, and the other's just totally illegal.
Licensing,
it's the same damn thing.
Meaning knowing that, hey, you did buy it at one time, that you have a license to be able to, or when you buy the case, like if they were smart, they would have started release, like when you bought the game, you had a little signed little thing like saying that, hey,
you mean like an NFT or something?
Yeah, honestly, an NFT would probably do it. Like a decentralized system that has authority scattered across multiple nodes. Now, while that can be manipulated, technically, would allow for authenticity. It could prove it, but unless you have some, I think, legal side of things applied to it, it might not. They still might be able to sue you, even if we tried to create a system like that to authenticate. Hey, I did buy this. I have the physical copy here with the. Some games came with CD keys, right? And so you can validate on that. That is one way. If you have the CD key, or if you have some way, a unique identifier, and created a database, then I would say, hey, I would love to see someone create a service like that. And I don't like dreaming this type of stuff up, because then I want to build it now. And that's why I have the rebuild project I'm in the middle of, is that I solve things and I want to go build it. But I think you might be able to get away with it, of creating a service that you could download games, as long as you can verify and have that, like, let's say CD key registered to you. And then if anyone tries to register it, it prevents them. So it's first come, first serve kind of thing.
Speaking of like this sort of, it's within the realm still, so bear with me. Like your ISP, if you were to download something from the Seven Seas, would you get into trouble? Because I live in Germany, and I once received a letter from a lawyer, which was saying I was getting sued for downloading some song. And I looked at the letter, I looked at the song, like, I've never heard this song in my life, and then looked at the address, and it was an address that I'd moved out of 6 months ago. And they were trying to sue me for uploading 10 seconds of this particular song, whatever it was. I have no idea what it was.
Oh no.
So I was like, seconds. What the hell? Yeah. But apparently in Germany, they are very active at scraping your ISP records of anything that you might have uploaded illegally. It's crazy. It's like, wow, that is scary stuff.
That is pretty scary. When it comes to ROMs, full disclosure, I own the game. I downloaded one recently within the past few years. I didn't have any issues. From my understanding with certain ISPs, if you do a ton of it, they will start noticing, and then you might get some ISP might get involved. I don't know if other companies will get involved as much for the ISP, but I think beyond the ISP, that is, but they will get involved. Yeah, I mean, I'm also older. Like maybe younger people are more willing to dive into that. Still a little bit Wild West. I'm to the age, I have kids and all that. I don't even want to even risk it to even try to do a video on that. And it's even to the point where I recommend people just like, there's so many free games. Go play those free games. Don't pirate anything. I get it if some people have to, but
download a Heroic.
What's that?
Download Epic and use them free games.
There's no point in pirating games in this day and age. Either, and this is going to show my age, go get a job and buy the game, or or just get the free games. There's tons of free games, great stuff. And if you're a part of the Games Revealed community, you might even be gifted a free game, as we do giveaways and do all that stuff every once in a while. So yeah, we got into some spicy topics at the end. I don't like to disclose the the whole like downloading, even like if it's a ROM kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe feel free to cut any of that out if you change your mind about it. So I think it might be worth it. It's up to you.
I don't think I'll be going to jail just yet, but if there's not any more episodes after this one, then we'll know why.
So then, just one thing. Then it's like, so what conclusion have we come to about this? Is it just two men ranting about this without a solution?
So yes and no. My conclusion to this is that I think things are changing. I think more and more organizations are forming. You got emulators, huge emulators. Is it Dolphin? Dolphin. Yeah, is a big one. And there's
Canary, is it Xena, PS3 or whatever? Yeah, some smart people out there. I have no idea how you would program an emulator.
It's just translations, right? Because like hardware is not the same, so I have to translate it. And that's what makes it so not efficient, because anytime you have to.
But you out there, the community who might be watching, you are doing us all a service and people in the future. So keep it up.
Yes, hats off to you.
Keep on the publishers' backs and tell them that we want to keep our games, not just for now, for life and beyond our lives.
100%. I fully agree. But I think people are really, really getting tired of it more and more as we get going on. There's louder and louder people that you're going to get into offices. People in those younger Gen X's that dealt with all this, played games their whole lives. I think it's going to become more of an issue that's going to be resolved. Like I said, I think it's going to have to be on the legal side. I think even, or not a legal side, but on I guess legal side, but like on the law side to like say, hey, companies, we're going to start getting involved again. Like with the ESRB, I think you brought up a good point with the rating system. You're going to need to resolve this. People are not being able to utilize the stuff, the commodities that they paid for. You need to fix this now, or else we're going to get involved. That potentially will start the ball rolling, because there's no reason for a lot of these companies to hold on to what they're doing. Like with, let's say, server code, it's just not going to, like, if it's an old piece, I don't see why they couldn't let it go. As far as making money now, if they're going to lose, like Nintendo might hold on to it forever and fight the government, because they make a ton of money off of Mario.
I know you mentioned this in your last podcast about Switch 2 being backwards compatible. If it's not, do you think it would kill it? 'Cause I'm sort of on the fence, quite honestly. I think a lot of people will be upset, but I'm not sure if enough people will be upset about it.
It won't kill the Switch 2. It will sell no matter what. As long as they don't deviate too hard from the formula, it will sell. I will not buy one. I'll probably buy one right away. I was going to say I'm not going to buy one, but because I do all this stuff, I will probably buy one. I am less likely to buy games on it, and only very specific games on it, as of
all the Marios, all the Zeldas.
It really bothers me when a game's not backwards compatible on a system. Xbox, PlayStation, for example, like even if they try to re-release it, I won't play it, or I get it for PC. Honestly, anytime I can get something for the PC, it's always backwards compatible. And
the $50 Euro pounds for Red Dead Redemption that has not received any update and has no multiplayer.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. it's such a ridiculous thing. Once I learned about that more and more on my stream, I was just like, no, I don't like this. Like if it was for PC though, I might buy it because I know it's PC. Lifetime kind of thing, right? I know I will be able to play it 10 years down.
And this is another thing that Rockstar don't really like, the mods. I'm sure there'd be some amazing mods on PC if they did release it. They'd put it through Reshade, they'd put all the RT effects through it. The mods would absolutely make that game shine.
Yeah, they would actually do Rockstar's job. Rockstar's really lazy these days, and I really they've shown themselves to truly be like kind of like Grand Theft Auto people. Like they're kind of greedy capitalists in a lot of ways. I don't like that when it comes to my art. I don't mind people making a lot of money, but there is a point in it's too much and you're just focused on the money instead of the actual balance between art and money. No, I mean, my final take is I think things will change. I think people like us talking about it will help. I do think it's going to take time. I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to take probably a decade or two, and hopefully the games can hold out long enough to where we can at least, I don't know about physical copies. Some people are going to preserve them, some collectors, but hopefully we don't lose any games to this, like ROM-wise. At least hopefully there'll be ROMs.
I mean, frankly, I think there's a lot of indie developers doing this already, and a lot of the times this feeds, bottom up, and if indies start doing it, people start seeing exposure to it. and then eventually the big players start doing it. So I know recently that if you've ever played VVVVV, on its 10th anniversary, Terry released the source code to GitHub, which is great. There's other games like it's a small one called Castle Doctrine. The guy, when you bought the game on Steam, you actually bought the source code, which you could do what you want with, and also he provided the server source code as well. So there are indie devs out there who are trying different things and trying to break the mold a little bit with these kind of things. So as long as the indies keep doing this, eventually it's going to get more exposure, and then the big players are going to see it and say, okay, we need to do what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Agreed that they're gonna. I just don't know if they'd let go of anything. I think it'll be interesting. It's definitely something's gonna come of it. It'll be interesting to see which way we go. So
Certainly will.
I think that's a good cutoff point on the topic. I think we're in agreement. We differ a little bit at times, but yeah. So anything that you want to plug now that we're done?
I'm not really, to be honest. I'm happy to plug you.
Everyone knows where to find stuff. I have everything in the description. But if you want, you can also message me like any like social stuff like that. If you want anything, YouTube channel, like obviously go check out his YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll say a few things then. So yeah, I'm Scawp from Jimballs Gaming. Thanks for watching the podcast, and come see me if you want. But more importantly, if you want me back on the podcast right here at Games Revealed, just message this guy, whichever side he edits me.
Right.
Just message him and say, hey, I want that guy back. He was quite nice. I like him.
Yeah, no, I think we'll have you back. This has been an awesome conversation. And with that, I got to get going. I have someone at the door. And
no problem, man. Thanks
we'll
for
chat
having me.
soon.
It's been fun.
I'll have you back on if you want in the near future. So,
okay, cool. And good luck with the rest of the cast, man.
We'll do. This is a great start already, obviously.
And also the game. I'm looking forward to seeing some behind the scenes. So
no, I will.
I'll let you go.
Later. Peace out, everyone.
Cool. Later.
Congrats! Secret level unlocked. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter to curb that craving for more. If you like this episode, then make sure to leave a like, rating, follow, or whatever the platform has. Also, make sure to check out our merch at shop.gamesrevealed.com or shopundead.com. Peace.